Hello and welcome to the Stateside Soccer Show. My name is Jordan Wiegand. With me, as always, is Logan Stump. How are you today, Logan?
Oh man, I had my editing volume on, and you scared the living tar out of me. For some reason, you were a lot louder then. So, I'm good, Jordan. Um, I guess besides not being able to hear, I'm doing pretty well. So, um, but yeah, how's it going, Jordan? I know we just caught up before, and I know you're having a good day so far. As far as
Great day. Great day. Yeah, we're doing all right, I guess. We're getting ready for vacation, so it'll be much needed here on Thursday when we finally head on out. But
where are you headed? I know where you're headed, but the listeners have no idea.
just South Carolina, Hilton Head area. So we'll be there. If for some reason you run into me there, say hi, I guess. I don't know.
We probably have a lot of South Carolina listeners, huh?
Oh yeah. If you look at our stats, yeah. So we're here. Happy Monday after a victory, as we're gonna spend most of the time talking U.S. men's national team today, with a little bit of MLS action going on, but most of our news regarding the national team is about the Nations League, which just wrapped up. And of course, they have appointed a manager. So we will get to those things very soon. I think I want to talk about the games first before we talk about any sort of manager stuff. But look, this is good as a leagues, nations leagues, right? Nations League that you could have this round here, where we had to face Mexico in the semis, Canada in the final. We get through without conceding a goal. We beat Mexico 3-0, which I think had never really happened before. We beat Canada 2-0. And, Balogun had his first U.S. men's national team goal. So that was great. And we had Pepe scoring again. We had red cards in the Mexico game. We had a lot of stuff going on. But I think the big thing really is, without Tyler Adams, who's injured, this team looked really good. Even when people were worried about Brendan Aronson starting last night, this team looked really good. And I saw some people disparaging Aronson last night as well, but he did exactly what he needed to do, which was he kept track of Alphonso Davies and he caused problems for him. And, that was what was needed. And, yeah, I don't know. I mean, this team just looked really good these two games. I'm very excited. Like I said last week, I really wanted to win the Nations League more than the Gold Cup. I feel like this is now the prestige tournament. Maybe it's just because we won it back-to-back times and the first two times, but it just feels great.
Yeah, I mean, I would say out of the windows that I've watched, like this is the best that the U.S. has looked. I mean, it just, you know what it starts to feel like, Jordan? It's starting to feel like I think we have a roster finally where it's when there's not a lot of moving pieces, not a lot of injuries. I mean, obviously Tyler Adams is missing and a captain at World Cup, but I think you throw him in the mix, man. I mean, this team, and we talked about this a little bit, is how deep they could be if these players develop into the players that we think they're going to. And I mean, what a better start, right, than to get a really good game from Christian Pulisic. I mean, just the captain, the player that has been in an absolute mess where he's been. I know at Chelsea, he's just lost, I think, all confidence. And I just don't think he's in the right headspace there. He's not happy. I think he eventually gets a move out. But, to see him come in and put in a performance at the tail end of their season when they're in form, it's a lot different than what I think we saw, their mid-season form. And some of the MLS players are out of off season. So at the World Cup. So it just, I think it was like a perfect storm of when these players were coming in. MLS is mid-season. The Premier League has just ended. A lot of them just played in the Champions League. I mean, it had that feel of this is the first time where pretty much everybody that we really wanted to be healthy was healthy. And I mean, to add in Balogun into this starting 11 is into the starting 9 spot. It's a totally different feel. Like if it has such a different feel to it. It's like we have a spearhead now, which we were completely lacking in the World Cup. So it causes a mess for everybody else, I think.
Yeah, I think we've been waiting for a number 9, for so long, and the fact that in 2 games he gets on the score sheet, his first goal within 2 games, he looked dangerous the whole game. There was times where I thought he was going to score more. Probably should have. Some good saves, some good defense by Canada, but it's just some of the moves he was making, it just looked like a whole nother class that we don't see in our strikers currently. So I'm very excited for that. I think, like I said, this is the competition you want to win. Canada deemed themselves the next giant of CONCACAF. They were laughing at us saying that we're kings of CONCACAF because they won qualifying. Well, winning qualifying doesn't get you a trophy, and in these big games, they haven't showed up. When it comes to these tournaments, they don't show up. They don't win these tournaments. I mean, I thought it was going to be a tough game, especially without Weston McKennie, without Tyler Adams, without Serginho Dest, without, with it being Balogun's second game, and we went out there instead and just 2 quick goals pretty much, before half. And at that point, it's just closing it down, right? It's just locking it in. There was a few times where I was worried that we were going to give up a goal and then really be nervous. But, I mean, I made the graphic for this thumbnail on the YouTube video. And the thing that I put out, I made that at halftime. I was like, I'm going to go ahead and make this now. And if we lose, whatever, I'm not going to ever post it. But I felt pretty good. Like, I don't think I feel that way if we're playing Mexico even. There's something about facing Canada that I was like, once we're 2-0 up, I was like, I think we're good. Like, we didn't let them have many chances at all in the first half. And I think that's what made me feel really good about it. I think we would have even played better if Gio didn't get injured. He had to leave at halftime because, of course, right? Like, Gio gets injured. Like, that's what happens. And I was thinking, like, this at halftime, I think I tweeted at final third or something, but I was like, this is the game I've been waiting for Gio. This was games, right? We're like kind of the shut me up, right? Like, we always see people talk about his talent. We always see people talk about how he's doing at Dortmund. When he comes to the national team, a lot of times he's not contributing. He either plays and doesn't actually contribute to like an assist or a goal, whatever. This game he did. He contributed to 2 assists, and they were good assists. He was creating tons of dangerous things. He had this nice moment where around Mexico, not Mexico, around Canada, they couldn't get him. And, that was kind of, it was great to see Gio. It was great to see Gio do this. Star Wars Satan, thank you. It says Gregg Berhalter sucks at life. I think he spelled his last name wrong there, but it was just really cool to see Gio actually like show up in a US shirt. He hasn't really done that. I think he now already has more final goal contributions with 4 than any other US player. So I'm guessing what other final? I guess a or Last Nations League. I don't remember who attributed to those goals in the Last Nations League game, but it was great. The fans could have been better, but what I would assume is, again, this is not sold by us. This is sold by, I think, CONCACAF, and they had, with the CONCACAF selling, I'm not sure what the prices are, but usually both these games are at the same stadium, and they usually do like a double header, meaning that if all the Mexican fans bought it for the final and then actually just showed up to the third place game and leave, nobody else is coming in usually then. So I think that might have been why it was empty. I don't know. I didn't see the third place game, so I'm not sure. And I'm not sure about Gio's injury.
That doesn't seem like something that's
it was an ankle, it looked like. And he was limping to celebrate too, like to get on the field to celebrate. So To me, it's not probably good. Hold on, this article had a clickbait
Yeah, of course it
thing that
did.
I just did. Is like,
But I mean, I would assume they're not going to announce anything. They're out of season over in Europe, and that's where he's headed back.
this article
So
doesn't know anything anyway. They're talking about how we'll have to go the Gold Cup without him. I don't think he's on the roster for the
I don't
Gold
think
Cup.
so either. Yeah, I think they're going to give all the European guys a break.
Yeah. So they don't
So
even know, man.
yeah, what like why Fox? Why would you write that article?
No, yeah. What was that?
Fox Sports News announces that Gio Reyna will not be in the Gold Cup. Well, he wasn't planning on being there anyway. But
Yeah. There was something like that with them before.
Oh, it was.
I can't update, but
yeah, it was completely. They misnamed somebody or something, like a different tournament or a different team, and I was like, no, that's not who that is. I mean, one time they had the NFL tickers on. I do remember that. That was fun.
He's celebrating with them all. I can't see any update on his injury though, so
I doubt there would be just because of their break.
Yeah. Plus, it literally just happened last night. I would assume we're going to hear by next week. Is kind of the vibe I would get on that. But man, it was just a fun game last night to see us like dominating the actual. Like, we didn't dominate possession, but I mean, I felt like we had higher G, we had more chances. I mean, we were just absolutely running it, and now there were times where Canada had possibilities in the box, but they either wouldn't shoot or they would, totally miss. I think there was one Davies put like 30 rows high, and it was, they weren't really that close, but man, I'm just, I like it to two. Like, it would have been really bad if we lost this game because I felt like we had the high of beating Mexico 3-0. And then at that point, it's like, all right, just do it. Like, just beat Canada, win the trophy. We had got the like emotional high. I felt more like emotional high beating Mexico than I did winning the trophy. This one doesn't like hit me as much as the first Nations League trophy when we had that crazy like comeback from behind against Mexico and win it. I mean, that game just felt special. This one was very like by the book. We won this thing. Like it was very not dramatic, which is nice. We always ask for those, right? There's so many times where, in the World Cup, we're playing Iran and we're like, why can't we just win a game without like theatrics? Like, just win a standard game without giving me a heart attack. And that's what last night was. So I was very appreciative of that.
Do you think, like, off of that, one, I think a lot of your, I guess, U.S. men's national team history has been with Mexico, whereas mine, we've dominated Mexico. Like, I can't remember the last time we lost to Mexico. Like, that's how long it's been. So like, I don't remember losing to Mexico much, and obviously I know the history, and obviously I know the experience that U.S. has had with Mexico and then leading CONCACAF. But like, I would say now, Jordan, like, it goes United States, Canada, Mexico in that order. Like, there's nothing in the last couple of years that tells me Mexico is a very good team. Now, I think the rumors were that Tata Martino's taking over the team. So I don't really know.
Is that the rumor? They just fired him, and then they fired this guy.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll be Tata.
Somebody rumored that he'd be back to coach. I was like, that'd be really weird. And he's also been thrown around with Miami too. So I don't know. There's a lot of speculation on that side of it, but it'll be interesting to see. I don't know. I think with Canada, I feel like they're much more of a formidable opponent. Like, I just feel like, I don't know. They've got better players. Like, Mexico's got Chucky, and I think that's pretty much it. Like, it doesn't seem like they have any kind of bite. A lot of their players have gotten older. They're kind of ushering in this newer generation of the Mexican players. But again, if you're looking at the past U.S. players, dual nationals, they're all picking the United States. Like, I think you're seeing a huge shift in the tide, and I think Canada's with
Callaghan
us.
won more trophies than England has since 1966 just by playing 2 games with us.
Heyo.
There you
That's a
go.
shot. I'm sure that the English fans will be happy about that one.
The last time we lost to Mexico was we're undefeated in our last 6.
That's insane.
The last time we lost them was an international friendly, September 6th of 2019. And for that, if you don't want to count a friendly, was a Gold Cup game in July of 2019.
So it's been a long time. It's been a whole cycle. Like, we've literally gone through a whole cycle without losing to Mexico. That's insane.
Yeah. I mean, that look, we got the upper hand right now. It's nice. It's really great. I'm looking forward to hopefully just keep on kicking their butt. I mean, look, they just fired their manager who's only been in charge for like 4 months. He took over after the World Cup, and they're already they're going to appoint another manager probably for the Gold Cup before Gregg even starts managing. They're going to go through 2 full managers before Gregg starts managing.
I mean, I've heard rumors that Gregg's not going to manage until 2026. Just going to show up cold turkey.
Just show up.
Yeah.
Game 1. Here
Right.
we are. I guess we can dive into it now, right? I think there's not much more to talk about, except for I'm very glad we didn't concede any goals. That was great. And the fact that we scored 5 was awesome. I think we can move on and talking about the news that broke Friday during the Mexico game, or right before it, Thursday, I guess, before it kicked off. They made it official on Friday that Gregg Berhalter was going to be coming back. So let me just kind of run down the day of events. So Thursday, we're playing this game at 10 o'clock, 10:30, something like that. And I don't know, like midday, work day, right after work, I don't know, we get this. Jesse Marsh's agent comes out and says Jesse Marsh will not be the next manager of the U.S. men's national team. I didn't think much of it. I thought maybe that was like Jesse saying like he's pulling his hat out, his name out of the hat. But now that I'm thinking about it, that was the tip-off that we should probably hear something very soon. Because if Jesse was a finalist and if he knows he's not getting it, that means they knew who they were picking. And at that point, it's just a matter of time before it leaks. Now, last week, we recorded on Wednesday, Tuesday, something like that.
Tuesday.
And at that point, the rumor was Gregg Berhalter finalist for, was it Club America? One of those clubs down there. And to be honest, it sounds like what that was is the club using Gregg as a potential, putting his name out there so that way that the manager they wanted was like, oh crap, they might give it to someone else. I'm going to take this job. And that was it. So I don't even know if Gregg was actually for that job or not. But now I wonder, did Gregg use that as leverage to get the U.S. men's national team job faster? Did they realize we want Gregg this whole time, but now he's linked to Club America? I got to lock this down. What do you think? Did Gregg use that fake thing to gain leverage against the U.S. soccer, or was it just a happy coincidence that this all was going on in the last week?
Well, I think it definitely was leverage. I don't see any way it wasn't. I know in MLB they do this all the time. It's like, oh, there's interest from elsewhere, and it's always made up by the agent of the actual coach that wants the job. This just forces their hand. And like you said, it was interesting to me too. It was like how we didn't really pick up on the fact that obviously Jesse Marsh was going to be a finalist for this job. I felt like the community was really slow on just thinking like you and myself, Jordan, which was like, oh, well, that just means Jesse is probably got his hat and other things. So Jesse's not interested. But I think because this process has been so strange for so long, I think that's ultimately why you get Gregg dropping that to whoever they need to drop it to get that story out. Like all that had to do, Jordan was getting the hands of like a Tom Bogert or Paul Tenorio or whoever it might be, so they can just go, oh yeah, this is it's gonna be an issue because Gregg's gonna go sign somewhere else.
Yeah, Tenorio is the one that broke the news that Gregg was coming back. They had him on the CBS Mexico halftime or post game, talking about it there. So let's talk about it. He's going to start after the Gold Cup, and I want to know why. I saw some conspiracies already. That's something that U.S. men's national team Twitter and Facebook love, right? Is the conspiracies. And this conspiracy was, well, they already know that the Gold Cup roster they picked sucked, so they are going to not want him under pressure right away when he loses the Gold Cup. And one, I think that's kind of disrespectful to the people on the Gold Cup roster, because I think we should be able to still win that tournament anyway. And two, look, I don't know if they could work that way. I don't know if you could. I don't know if you're like, well, as soon as we lose this game, they're going to call for his head. There's people calling for his head now. Like, I mean, there's no difference, right? Like, loses the Gold Cup if he was in charge, people would be asking for his head. Even if we do the Nations League and he coached that as well, like it doesn't matter, right? Like I don't think they would ever operate that way where they're like, we can't have him coach the Gold Cup, because at that point, once the roster was out, there's like, we're gonna let BJ ride out because it's his roster, and because Gregg might want to make changes to the roster. We don't know, right? I mean, like that would be weird, just kind of giving somebody a roster like that. But it's frustrating that we're not starting this new cycle off with these two tournaments. These are kind of like these pointless, I don't want to say pointless tournaments because I'm excited we won, but like it's hard for us to judge it at all, right? Without knowing how it's going to be under Gregg. Now, I also want to just shout out that BJ Callahan was an assistant of Gregg Berhalter. So, I mean, he's already said he's kind of using the same system Gregg did anyway. So part of it is the players playing well. And I think we can't that we actually have a legitimate starting striker now either. I mean, maybe our goal scoring problems go away anyway now that we have Balogun. But I don't know. I just get your thoughts here on the reappointment of Gregg and why he's not coaching the Gold Cup.
Yeah, so I think my initial reaction is frustration only because, if this was going to be the case, I don't know why I think I do know why we did this. I think ultimately they were waiting for this investigation to clear. They were waiting for the next director to step in as far as the U.S. men's national team and really get this thing going in a direction I think they wanted. This might frustrate people, and there are probably a lot of questions, and I myself might have them, but I think ultimately what it says is that just the U.S. men's national team pool was not as deep as people think it is. As far as coaching candidates, I mean, think about it. People are shouting out Pep's name. They were thinking Jim Curtin was going to come down off the Union spot, but they weren't going to give Jim. I don't think they were going to give Jim that much time to decide if he wanted the job. It would have required him stepping down from a union job that I think he's happy in, and I think Jim Curtin's next step is to Europe.
Mid-season too.
Right?
Would have been a mid-season for Jim.
Yeah. So either that or you're waiting for December, and that's just not good for the U.S. men's national team roster. Because you really start to put yourself in a really tight window, even though it sounds like it's 3 years, but it's really not. I mean, you've really got a couple of camps that aren't going to be as important or utilized. So you really just have a limited window to get the guys ready. The more I've thought about it, though, the more it just makes sense at this point. I think we can be frustrated with some of the tactics as far as Gregg's concerned. And I think, I've kind of done a 180 on the way I feel about it. And just the fact that, I'm not sure there was anything better out there. The players, like you said, Jordan, they love Gregg. They like working with Gregg. I think Gregg's easy to get along with. He, whether you like him or not as a person or as a coach, he's done one hell of a job recruiting some of these players that were dual nationals. I mean, Yunus Musa could have easily gone elsewhere.
I'm sure
I
he
think
talked to Balogun as
yep.
well.
Yep. So yeah,
Best.
Balogun isn't just deciding in the last couple of weeks that he wanted to join the U.S. men's national team, or even months. So I think that was an ongoing process. I'm sure Balogun has talked to multiple people. Again, like you said, Dest is not just picking the United States because he's more comfortable there. He's picked because I think he sees a future with Gregg too. So I don't know. And the crew players loved Gregg when Gregg was there. I think players just truly do like Gregg. I think they respect him. He's played. He's got the respect of that, that aspect of it. He's got the ties to the U.S., obviously. Everything kind of makes sense. The only thing that I think is more of just weighing heavy on people is the fact that they think he doesn't do enough, which, I mean, we really haven't had the roster to say that. I think, this World Cup and this qualifying, which we don't really have to qualify, but this World Cup is really, I think, a measuring stick onto how we will see Gregg. Because, Jordan, what if they do make a run to the final 8, final 4? Like, I think you look at Gregg and go, well, this has been really successful.
Well, if Copa as well, that we
Right.
can judge our team on as well, I guess, was it next year? Look, we were very clear when we did the post wrap-up that we both wanted to move on from Gregg. And I thought we would. I thought every time they said he's still a candidate, that was lip service. I really did. Turns out they really like him. And I don't want to, I can't have people say it's favoritism or anything like that, because this is a different guy in charge than it was the last time. It's, it's different, right? Like, he probably still had to talk to Crocker. He probably still had to, like, present an idea on what they're supposed to be doing, right? And, anybody that would disregard what Pulisic and the other players say, Timothy Weah, right? That disregard what they say, just because this is the excuse all the time, right? Is, well, what else are they supposed to say? There's ways to say stuff without saying stuff. Meaning, like, if Pulisic acts about Gregg, be like, yeah, we had a great time at the World Cup. I'm anticipating to see what happens next. He doesn't have to say Gregg's a great guy, I want him back. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is ways to say it without being like him, without him saying Gregg sucks, and without him saying, I want Gregg back. If he wanted to be neutral, he could have been neutral. Our captain likes the coach. Timothy Weah, the people that wanted Weah to start over Paul Areola, and we'll get to Areola's tweet later, but to Paul Areola, and the people that were so upset Areola was starting over Weah, and that Weah should have been starting no matter what. Well, guess what? Timothy Weah likes Gregg Berhalter, advocated for him to come back. He didn't seem that upset that he wasn't starting right away, and then the people that are like, okay, well, Pepe got left off the squad. Pepe was like, this is great. Gregg's coming back. Yes, he missed the World Cup, but Pepe wasn't playing good at that point. Like, it is what it is, right? Like, he was just now finding his feet after a bad transfer. And he played this time and he looked good. So there's things here that make me think, I don't want the players running the team, but I do want to take their thoughts into account of, they're playing well. They wanted Gregg back. Great. And when you're throwing in the Reina thing, Gregg's press conference, somebody asked him, have you spoken with Reina? Have you spoken with Pepe since the World Cup? And he said no. Some people were very up in arms about that. And I mean, he wasn't the manager. He wasn't the coach. Why would he be reaching out? Like, why would you? Especially after the public blow up with Reina and his family and all that stuff. I'd be like, I'm taking a break from that for a bit. I need these 5 months to relax. But now he can reach out to them. He's officially hired. I'm sure he's going to talk to them. I'm sure he may have already talked to them at this point. Now, I don't know. I think it's funny if a player like Joe Scally, who says how he wants a manager that runs the team, club team, but by a national team, everyone was like, that's a slight on Gregg. I love it when they say stuff like that. But then when people come out and praise Gregg, they say he didn't actually mean it. There's no win. There's a no-win scenario here, right? Like they either take what they said at face value or they disregard it if it doesn't fit their narrative. And that's frustrating. Like it or not, we're stuck with Gregg till 2026. If he fails at Copa, if he fails at the Gold Cup, well, he's not coaching the Gold Cup, but the next Gold Cup, it doesn't matter. He's still coaching. That's how they're going to go, right? We're guaranteed to be in the World Cup this time. Nothing is going to get him fired. And he now has a starting 9, right? A starting striker. They should be able to score more. Here's where I'll kind of claim that he's under a little bit more pressure right out the gate because his assistants, Anthony Hudson and BJ Callahan, have done very well with this squad. Also, though, some of that was not due to their decisions. And what I mean by that is Tyler Adams is out. So they already had to make a change to the midfield. And that allowed for Musa to be playing as a 6, where he played very well. That allowed Gio to go central. And Gregg's already liked Gio centrally. He said that before. But he usually ended up sticking him on the wing because you had Adams, Musa, and McKennie. You know what I'm saying? So who are you taking out? Who are you taking out in that midfield to put Gio? We have at a point so many midfielders, it's going to be tough to make that decision on who's going to start, who's going to get benched. And for BJ Callahan, he already had to make a change due to Adams being injured. And then he had to make another change due to McKennie being out. The reason Scally played, right, was because Dest was red card. So, I mean, those are just things that I kind of think about, and we'll see. Like I said, Gregg is going to be under pressure. That's not a problem. I'm not advocating for Gregg to be a lifetime coach, but I think at a certain point we got to kind of put it behind us, no matter the results of the Gold Cup, and know that when the friendlies happen in like October, that we're locked in for 3 years. We are locked in, and as long as the players are feeling it, I don't have any problem with it. What I wanted a sexier pick, yeah. We all said we want to, what was it? Herv's Renard or whatever. We all wanted him have his unbuttoned shirt on the sideline, but
godlike
Hercules, right? We all wanted him on the sideline. But here's the thing: we were never going to get Ancelotti. Ancelotti's going to Brazil. They just said that he's going to coach the Brazilian national team. We're never going to get Ancelotti. If you're not going to get Ancelotti, you're not going to get Pep. If you're not going to get Pep, you can't get Mourinho. Like, there is levels to this, right? And our job is not as sexy as Brazil or some of those other ones people can get. So we have to kind of go with the lower tier.
I do like what you said, though. I mean, as far as the reason why the assistants have come in and had success is because they were pretty much forced to play these guys that were playing in their very natural position that they like to play on their club teams, which they can't really fit because it doesn't fit that way in the U.S. men's national team. And maybe Gregg learned something from it. Maybe Gregg takes that and says, you know what, Eunice is a great number 6. Maybe we move Tyler Adams a little bit. Maybe we do a double pivot. Like, I don't know. Like, there's multiple options, but like, you're not going to go and change a whole formation just because one guy performs a little bit better. And I do agree with you, Jordan. I think Gio's main role should be in that midfield, in that central attacking midfield position where he seems to be very comfortable. But again, he can't stay healthy. So like, the idea that he's going to stay healthy enough over this World Cup is just bonkers because he's never done so. He's never once been healthy. So it just, they're preparing themselves to play without a certain somebody in the midfield. They're just deciding on who that might be at that specific time. And then, and I think that's where Brenden Aaronson comes in, where Brenden feels very much more comfortable, I think, in that midfield rather than he does on the wings. Like, I feel like that he fits a lot better in the actual midfield because, like you said, Jordan, while he can be a good attacking player and he does create good chances, his biggest thing for me is that he would be a disruption and a half
He
on
presses, he
in the
runs,
midfield.
yeah.
He's an
That's all he
energizer
pretty much
bunny,
did
right?
yesterday was press
Right.
Davies,
Which
cause
is what you need.
trouble.
Yeah, you take one player out of the equation for some of these some of these other national teams, Jordan. Like, take for instance, if you had taken like a Ronaldo or Bernardo Silva out of the Portugal team, or you take a KDB out of his mix with the Belgian team, like that's a big damper on whatever they're trying to do in the attack. And if Brendan Aronson's going to provide that with you, with Tyler Adams and Musa kind of as a double pivot, if that's what's going to take to get this team to the finals, by all means, I'd love to go full defensive and just absolutely blow teams up and score a couple goals off of a Balogun goal, like, or a Pulisic goal late. Like, I'd much rather see that than what we saw where we're just goalless wonders and look completely lost defensively in the midfield.
And you would hope, right? Like that Gregg, if he keeps BJ Callahan as an assistant, that he'd be like, hey, what was working so well for you in the Nations League? And he'll take that. He's a manager. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's supposed to happen.
And Gregg doesn't strike me as somebody that'd be like arrogant enough to go, no, I'm not listening to you.
Right.
Never strikes me as that kind of person.
What it is, it's the perceived Gregg in people's heads, right? That are like, he won't listen to this. But for me, the other wild takes I've seen are like, I saw somebody say the reappointment of Gregg was the worst day they've had following this team since we missed the World Cup in 2018. Wild. That is wild.
They missed the Gio Reyna crap falling. You know what?
Yeah. And then that, Gregg said, hey, we want to like challenge world powers. And, people were saying, okay, so when we go to Copa, we should win the thing. We should beat Brazil and Argentina, no problem. I'm like, what are you watching? Those are still two of the top teams. Argentina's a World Cup champion. I don't know, man. I think you're looking at beating everyone else other than those two, and then maybe getting lucky against them, right? Like,
beat
that's
England,
my thought.
or beat Belgium, or beat France. Like, beat one of them, and I'll be happy. Right. Like, I just don't like beating France would be a hell of a defeat. But again, like, I think, yes, we can compete with them. I don't expect us to win in 2026. Like,
no, that's foolish. That's getting your hopes up way too high.
Final eight would where I would be happy. I
want to get to the final eight. That's the next step.
Yep.
And then no matter where the next World Cup is, you're thinking 8 or semis, right? Yep. Like, that's what you want to do. Look, we still see teams like Italy not qualify and just totally bomb out, right? And then I saw some people saying, are we really that worse than Croatia, who's doing so good? Yes, Croatia has a Ballon d'Or winner on their team. We don't have anything close to that. Pulisic doesn't get in the Croatian team. I mean, come on, people. You're overestimating. We do this all the time as U.S. fans. We're overestimating this starting 11. And maybe the whole squad. Some of these players are going to be going in July back to their club and having to sort out where they're going. McKennie, his loan is done at Leeds. Adams wants to leave. Brendan has something in his contract to leave at relegation. Pulisic wants to go. I mean, Dest still hasn't, no clue where he's going to go. I mean, we have so many people at clubs right now that are not even in the starting 11 of their club, and they need to figure it out, or they don't have a club situation. The best teams in the world don't have that issue. Luka Modric can go to whatever team he wanted to. Kylian Mbappe can go wherever he wants, and he's trying to.
Yeah.
But
that's a good point, though. Like, I think people overestimate Christian. I don't think he's one of the best Chelsea players. I think they've got a mess. They've got a mess of just random players that just don't fit. But I don't think
it's hard to judge him at Chelsea because that whole team is just completely awful.
Yeah, but then you look at Dest. Dest isn't where he wants to be. Like, it's all of them.
Yeah,
like you're right. Like, as 100%, our best goalkeeper, Jordan, is the second best goalkeeper on an Arsenal team.
Yep. Did not win the
title for a Premier League title. Competed, but like, you're right. Like, if I'm looking around, the one and only player I think that we have right now, and that I think we'll get to that point, is I do think Balogun's going to get to that point. Like, I do think he becomes one of those guys, but you need a lot of those guys, Jordan. Like you said, hell, the Belgian team, I think all their starting 11 players are playing for one of the top clubs in the world. Like that's just, it's insane to me. Like Germany, same thing. Like a lot of these German players, like a Gundogan, he could walk onto anybody's team and play wherever the hell he wanted. Like we don't have that. Like we do not have that. These guys are way too young right now. Like I don't think we have anybody. I could see Weston getting to that point too, but he's just not there yet. Like I
Leeds
just
fans hated him, man.
Yeah,
they called him fat and everything. Right. I mean, it is.
But I think as far as talent wise, I think he's got talent. I think Gio has a world of talent. He's just never healthy. And I think Balogun's got talent. But I do think
if Gio can stay healthy, he will be the player that can play into a team, because he was so instrumental for Dortmund.
That's true. Yeah.
But if he can ever stay healthy, which is rare, right? Like I think he is a player that can. He's only 19. He can still, like when he's 23, he might be able to just play wherever he wants. I guess we'll find out. But I wanted to share this tweet because it created some discourse of what is toxic fandom and what's not, right? So MLS Buzz tweeted, remember when Timothy Weah only became a U.S. men's national team starter when Paul Arriola had to pull out of a starting 11 because he injured himself in warm-ups? Paul Arriola retweeted this with a quote here saying, I remember fans tweeting, thank God you got injured. Man, what a great feeling. You guys are awesome. And I think there is, I know people say U.S. men's national team Twitter is toxic, and I know that has upset some fans on Twitter saying, we're no worse than Brazil. We're no worse than other sports, But look, I follow a lot of Orioles fans, a lot of Raven fans in my area for my teams. I don't see stuff like this. I usually don't. So it's not as prevalent in other sports as you would think. Maybe overseas it is, but I kind of hate when people just say, oh, those are just a few outliers, right? Because I mean, for Paul Arriola, it stuck with him. It is his life. He had this sort of abuse that he was seeing. And I get if you don't want him to be playing. There's no reason to bring up Paul Arriola last night when we won a damn trophy. There's no reason, right? All you have to do is say, thank God Timothy Weah is playing right now. You don't have to bring up, remember how Timothy Weah wasn't even starting until Paul Arriola got injured? That's pointless. That's bringing up Paul for no reason. This is what we mean when we say toxic in the U.S. Fandom is not even really the MLS Buzz account, but having people tweet at Paul Arriola, thank God you were injured, stuff like that. You should back every player. It's not up to the player. The player gets called in. He's going to take the chance. He wants to play for his country. He's going to come in. You should be directing that stuff towards the manager and stuff like that. But not even don't get real weird about that either. Like, don't call the manager names or say you wish the manager would be injured or something. Like, just be civil. Have normal discourse, right? Like, I see it all the time in other sports where it's like, this guy sucks. Can we just call up somebody else? That's not a slight. But when you're bringing up after winning a trophy, thank God he got injured a year ago. It's just uncalled for at this point. Again, we were beating Mexico 3-0, and everyone was focused on Gregg Berhalter getting rehired. Soak in the win, guys. Why are you that worried about it? I get it. Sports are fun. We podcast about this sport. We watch the games. We love the feelings it gives us. But at the end of the day, I can turn that part of me off and focus on something else if I need to.
Well, I don't know if I'm always feeling good about the feelings U.S. men's national team gives me, Jordan. But I would never go this far as to wish harm on somebody else. Is just absolutely bonkers to me. Like that's sick. Like you're sick, and you need help. Like if you're taking it this seriously, I mean, yeah, like it's disappointing when we lose. But my gosh, like these are people's lives. Like these people have kids. And could you imagine, right? Like Paul Arriola's kid getting a hold of this for some reason, and like all these people are out to get my dad, and like they don't care about him being healthy. This would be like me telling, I wish your dad get hurt and he can't work. Like
These
this
are
is so
real
stupid.
people
Yeah,
in
this is so
real life.
yeah. Like grow up. I mean, it is. Even tweeting stuff like that. Like, sorry, MLS Buzz, but I'm gonna go after you on this one. Like, it just, I just don't understand. I don't get why tweeting anything like that even has to come up. How about tweeting something along the lines of, I really wish Timothy Weah would play, and that's that. Like, wish he's in the starting 11. I'd much rather see him play over Paul Arriola. Nothing wrong with that. Why can't you just say that? Why bring up all this stuff
Why
about
are you focusing
injury?
on something that happened
Yeah,
2 years ago on a night
right,
where he was starting and we won the
right.
game? It
Yeah,
doesn't make any, it doesn't make any sense.
right. And if you know
Paul
anything about,
Arriola is sitting there on the couch catching strays for no
yeah,
reason.
and if you know anything about MLS, which obviously you don't, in your account's name MLS Buzz, you don't know how the hell he plays in Texas. Like he's played really well. That's the reason that team has played so well. So like you clearly don't have a good read of what's going on. Cool, Timothy Weah plays in Europe, but also Paul Arriola was going to play in Europe before he got injured. So you're bringing up all these awful things that this poor guy has had to go through. And like it'd be like wishing you ill or hurt so you can't work. How does that feel? Like I just I hate it. I hate it so much. Like this is one thing that like this is just so across the line. You don't say stuff like this. Like you don't go after somebody on a personal level. Sure, if they're not performing, you suck. You don't perform well. What the hell? Like cool. Like you can say that stuff, I guess. But also no, these people are like imagine people showing up to your work, watching over your shoulder, and as soon as you made the mistake, going, what the hell? Get him out of there. Yeah, I don't he doesn't deserve to be here. Like
Well, the
it's
thing
just
that
all
gets
that
me
stuff.
too is I see people saying, well, this is just part of being a pro athlete and in the spotlight in 2023. We
Doesn't
can
have to be.
demand better. We don't have to be like social media is a wasteland. That's it. Like you have like, why do we accept it? Why do we accept? Why do we see what other people are saying and just think, oh, that's 2023 for you? That's the social media
That's good old
landscape.
Twitter. That's good old
Yeah,
Twitter. I always hear that. And so
yeah.
that's Twitter for you. I'm like, what the hell's the difference between Twitter and Instagram and TikTok? TikTok's a very positive place. I don't understand. I don't get this. Like, I don't get why we've deemed Twitter where you can go to be a complete asshole. Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's just frustrating when it's like maybe we should demand better than of random anonymous accounts instead of just being like, that's part of being a pro athlete. You got to deal with it or get out of the profession. It's such a narrow worldview because in the difference is Twitter, you can go out of your way and tag somebody and yell at them. Then like in the old day when you're just like, okay, I went to the supermarket and some upset fans yelled at me. Okay, but now you're back home and nobody can contact you. This is like just constant going into people. This is why people leave Twitter. This is why people leave social media. Is because of that. It's frustrating. All right, let's talk some MLS here. We got some good stuff coming up here. We have Messi might be bringing over Busquets. They're
He's
saying
bringing over the whole, I think, Barcelona and Real Madrid teams from the past.
Saying it is a DP for Busquets. So what is that? 2 already that they'll have with?
Well, I was going to say
Messi and Busquets by themselves, or what?
Well, and then Jordi Alba, I think it's Jordi Alba, right? Is that the guy's first name?
Yeah,
I can't ever remember. But
he's in negotiations. Yeah,
yeah, and on a TAM deal. I'm like, how in the world is Miami pulling off? And it said Sergio Busquets might also be TAM. Why? How the hell does this work? Like, I'm so confused.
Well, I think who was it? Let me see if I can find it. He reports for Miami. He was saying it's going to be a DP spot. I can't find it now though.
I just thought I saw somebody say that they would both somehow be on TAM if they
Well,
can't.
maybe it changed.
Like,
because maybe they deleted the tweet because I don't see it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's amazing to me, one, that Miami, if they're doing anything funky, that they're getting away with it again. Two, it's just amazing to me, Jordan, that this, how quickly this can change this league. Like, how quickly this guy could
Franco Paninzo, right? He reports for them. He says that Busquets will be a designated player for Inter Miami, will not be a TAM signing.
Okay.
And apparently they might be trying to buy out Pizarro to be able to get him off their books as a DP.
That's right.
So that might free up some spots then. So
they're going to be really good.
Maybe. I don't know. We've seen this before.
We've never seen Lionel Messi. Like
that's
this, like bringing, I don't know, God. I don't know. It's like a savior in some way. But
all right, quickly recapping the results that happened. Houston got another bite of the apple against LAFC on Wednesday last week, and they won again. So they just took 2 out of them. NYCFC and Columbus drew 1-1. DC lost to RSL 2-1. Another goal of the season candidate here, as it is chipped and goes like top right corner over the DC goalkeeper. It was absolutely beautiful. I think it's a better one than Zelarayan's, but I think Zelarayan, you have to add in the fact that it was a stoppage time winner. I don't know. It's kind of difficult to figure that out, I guess, on what is more important. New England beat Orlando 3-1. LAFC bounced back. They beat SKC 2-1. Nashville beat St. Louis 3-1. Mukhtar, best player in the league, as he scores. Did he have a hat trick or did he have 2? I'm thinking he had a hat trick. There you go. He could have had 4. That's right. He could have had 4. That's how well he was playing. And then San Jose Portland drew 0-0. So that was the weekend action. Not a lot of games this week, as we talked about. But we got a lot of games coming up on Wednesday. So let's go ahead and pick our match of the week. Atlanta, NYCFC, 7:30 on Apple TV for free. Then Cincinnati hosts Toronto. Montreal hosts Nashville. That is free. Red Bulls host Charlotte. That's free. Orlando hosts Philadelphia and the Stateside Soccer Show Derby at 7:30. That one's not free. You have to pay up. 8:30, Austin hosts Dallas. Houston hosts San Jose. That's free. That's a fun one. Houston was originally San Jose. They relocated to Houston, and then San Jose got a team back again. That's free. 8:30. St. Louis hosting RSL. Colorado hosting Vancouver at 9:30. That is free. LA Galaxy hosting SKC. LAFC hosting Seattle. And Portland hosting Chicago at 10:30. That's free. What's your thoughts here, Logan? Match of the week.
Well, I'm going with the match that I'm going to. So I will be picking the Orlando and Union game.
You got tickets for that, right?
Second half of my Christmas present. So I'm looking forward to that.
6 months later.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. It's
now
supposed to.
Now you'll get another gift in 6 months, so you'll be really good.
Yeah. Well, it's supposed to rain here, so that'll be tough. One thing too that I want to kind of sharpen my teeth on, if Orlando City's listening, they pretty much like screw you over on these ticket packages. Like,
do they?
Yeah. So we're sitting in row U, which is the last row in the stadium. Now in soccer, that's not bad. Like I am totally fine sitting there, but like my wife paid good money for it, and like they didn't send me the tumbler, they didn't send me the gift card, and it was supposed to be sent to us. I'm going full Karen right here. But also like the tickets are valued at like $25. It doesn't even out to the amount of stuff that you get. So
Did they send it to you afterwards? Have you contacted them saying I need the tumbler and stuff?
Yep.
So
So
time to use your press pass
right.
And,
if I ever get it back now after putting them on blast, but like I felt bad. Like my wife's like, "Oh, this is stupid. They're only going for like $25." I'm like, yeah, like it wasn't. Yeah, it kind of felt like a cheap way out there. I don't know.
how much was the plan as itself, as the whole?
They had to be upwards of 200.
And you got opening day and this?
No, not opening day. I don't think it was. Was it? I can't remember. I'm old.
Right, because I thought you went for Red Bull's opening day.
I guess I did then. I guess that would have been opening night. But again, those tickets weren't valued very high. So it's like, I think the biggest thing is like the seating thing. Like, at least if you're going to pick one game to put you up in the top of the stadium, and if you know anything about Orlando, they're great seats still.
They are.
But like, at least move you down somewhere for the second game. You know, like that's what other sports do. Like I know with Orlando Magic, they do. You buy one of those packages, they'll put you way up in the rafters one game, and then bring you back down, and then bring you back up, and then bring you back down. So it's like at least
that's interesting. I think for like the only thing I can compare it to around me is like the Oriole ticket plans, but I think they are all like if you buy like a 13 game ticket plan, I think it's like you're sitting in the same spot for all the games.
Yeah. Sorry, that probably sounded snobby, but I just felt like I don't know.
They have me in row U.
Right. But the fact that they didn't even send the package, like didn't even care to correct that mistake.
Doesn't sound like Logan's game of the week here.
I'm rooting for the Union is what I'm going for here.
I've converted him.
I'm actually going to pull my Union kit out and wear it. I don't have
Do
one.
you have one? Oh,
no. Send one to me. Like, I got time, right? You can get it here overnight.
No.
I'm sure it won't be cheap.
I'm not going to pay for that.
Why? Oh, that'd be fine.
It's not worth the value of the ticket if I send it down.
It's true. It might be more than my package.
Let's see. What game am I going to pick? If you pick that one, I'm not going to pick that one. Let's go with
the Union in Orlando.
I mean, I'll go basic. LAFC, Seattle. It's a pretty nice matchup. LAFC, like we said, they're kind of they've rebounded against SKC. How much of a rebound is that, right? I mean, SKC's been playing better, but LAFC is tied for first still, even with flubbing those two games against Houston. And they have a game in hand with St. Louis still number one. St. Louis has kind of been on a little bit of a downturn recently. Seattle, 1 point less than LAFC, but they have 2 games in hand of LAFC. So for Seattle, this is very important. I mean, LAFC has 2 games in hand against Seattle. So it's a very important game for Seattle to kind of hold LAFC down and get one of their games in hand out of the way. Well, no, I guess that wouldn't work that way because then Seattle plays an extra game. Anyway, Seattle has been struggling as well lately. They got to start moving up. This West is completely bonkers. The highest team in the West would be 5th place in the East. That's not typical. So that's pretty interesting. All right, and then we also have games on the weekend, so we'll talk about them now. Charlotte, Montreal at 7:30. Columbus, Nashville at 7:30. That's free. DC and Cincinnati is free. New England, Toronto is free. New York, Atlanta is free. Philly hosting Miami without Messi. So if you bought tickets for that, you got kind of screwed. That's at 7:30. Austin hosting Houston in 2. So they face Dallas midweek. Then they face the other Texas team on the weekend. SKC versus Chicago at 8:30. That's free. Colorado, LA Galaxy at 9:30. That is free. They're like 2 bottom teams. No one wants to watch that. That's free for you. You don't have to pay for it. RSL, Minnesota at 9:30. Gold Cup starts on Saturday already. US Jamaica, that's at 9:30. LAFC and Vancouver at 10:30. Portland, NYCFC at 10:30. San Jose, St. Louis at 10:30. And Seattle, Orlando for free, 10:30 on Saturday. And then we will be back by the time we play the second group stage game in the Gold Cup, which is Wednesday, June 28th at 9:30. All right, game of the week for the weekend, Logan.
I'm going to go with Nashville and Columbus. I think having two of the best players in the league possibly square off against each other is a lot of fun. With Zellerand and Hani Mukhtar. A battle, I guess, for like kind of that midsection in the Eastern Conference. Nashville sits second, Columbus in fifth, and Jordan only 7 points in between those two teams. So if Nashville drops 3 points here, Columbus can kind of go on a little bit of a roll. They can start to catch up to maybe the top half of the Eastern Conference again. They had kind of struggled there for a little bit. Seem to be back on track. I've won 3 of their last 4, so possibly looking at maybe another Columbus win, especially at lower.com against a really good Nashville team who don't really give up any goals. So, I mean, I think it should be pretty interesting. Walker Zimmerman back from international break. So that'll be kind of fun to mix them back into the best defense. And I guess we'll see. I think Hani Mukhtar, again, this is one of those games that if he goes on the road and terrorizes another defensive team, I think that another team in the Eastern Conference that plays pretty well. I think that you could be looking at, once again, Hani Mukhtar, clear favorite to win MVP this year. So,
I think he is already.
Yeah.
I'll pick USA Jamaica. I'm just kidding.
Big Gold Cup fan, huh?
That's unfair. That's unfair. I
can't.
Yeah, no Gregg. So I gotta bump it down. Okay, I'm gonna pick Seattle, Orlando. I think that's just a fun matchup we don't see a lot, so I'm kind of excited for that. And who knows? Maybe Seattle will put Orlando in their place, and maybe they'll finally send you their tumbler that you need.
Right. Get them, Sounders.
Yeah, but I kind of forgot the Gold Cup is this quick, like right around the corner.
It doesn't seem real. Like it's like,
no, I was thinking
they're going to drop this roster. Yeah, like they're going to drop this roster and then go with the next roster. Like what? You know what I know? I just know you, Jordan. Like your background, is it a still picture?
No, it's just a blurred background of my room.
Okay, so I'm going to send a screenshot to you, Jordan, because in your background, I just pulled you up full screen, and this is probably terrifying. It looks like there's somebody sitting behind you.
Where?
Like right there, where you just had your hand. Like it looks like a face. It looks like he's wearing there. It looks like they're wearing a Crystal Palace kit.
Let's see. Hold on.
That's
a box.
It's kind of. Hold on. You go ahead and you can wrap it up, but I'll screenshot this for you because it's horrifying.
Thank you all for listening or watching along. Send us your thoughts on the Gregg Berhalter appointment, good or bad. I don't care. I'll read whatever you send. So you can do that at Stateside Show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We do have a Discord that you can join as well if you just click the Discord link in the link tree. You can email us statesideShow@gmail.com. So you can reach us at all those places. You can give us your predictions on the Gold Cup. You can give us all these thoughts on Gregg Berhalter or your MLS team. You know, I've seen comments before where people are not happy with some of the coverage from other nationwide podcasts that are maybe made by the league that they don't cover your team as well. You know, hopefully we can. So let us know what you want to see more of, hear more of. You can subscribe us on Facebook. You can rate us on Facebook, on YouTube. You can rate us on, Apple and Spotify now, so more people can find us. But thank you all for watching, listening. We'll catch you next time after hopefully another U.S. victory.